Thank you so much for checking out Tea and a Butty on YouTube. For exclusive content, please consider becoming a patron. Details are in the link of this video's description, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hello and welcome to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
I'm Erica.
She loves the way I introduce the podcast.
That was a very spooky kind of sound.
Well, it's timely. It's timely.
Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I am Dominic.
It's very timely.
I just felt like I needed to go ooh in the background. I don't know.
It's timely because it's almost Halloween. So.
But yeah, Dominic, Erica, let's go.
Let's go. You know us by now, surely. We're the most famous podcast in the world.
Oh, God, yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine is right, yeah.
Anyway, this is a Places We Want to Go series.
Yes.
Entry, episode.
Take 2.
This is a Places We Want to Go episode.
Oh, my God, yes. Yeah.
All about Edinburgh.
Yeah, we haven't
It's
done
your
one.
favourite.
We haven't done one this month, I don't think.
No, we haven't.
Have we talked about Edinburgh before?
Edinburgh.
Have we talked about it before?
We've talked about it briefly when mentioning a certain someone who we will mention later on in the podcast. So stay tuned for that. And before
maybe we just did a general Scotland episode. I feel like we've talked about Edinburgh.
Yeah, we've talked about Scotland
a little bit.
We talked about where we grew up and stuff, I think.
Yeah, me growing up in the
Highlands.
In the hills of Scotland.
No, I'm talking about me.
Me. What is it? I.
Oh, your Scottish accent.
You have to do it.
No, you have to do it.
I can't do it.
Yes, you can do it. Hi.
Well, there you go.
Hi. We talked about it in Outlander. You know, when we were on the Outlander kick and we annoyed all our people who were listening.
Oh my God, yeah, you guys loved that when we were talking about Outlander.
Well, we're annoying people who was like, oh, not another places we want to go.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
But this is about Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland. But before we go on, we are going to tell you about something called the giveaway that's happening.
The Texas tea giveaway.
It's happening.
We live in Texas, so we wanted to share
And if you're
Texas
new here,
things.
then you got to go enter it.
Yeah.
All our social media, you know what I mean, bruv?
Yeah, you can enter on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Just follow us there. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you like the giveaway post. I'll probably post it again, so if you have already liked it, you don't have to like it on both.
You don't have to like
You're
it.
You're welcome to. It's not going to give you any extra entries or anything, but just for people who didn't see it the first time around. That was good.
No,
I'll post it again.
This is the sound effects I have. I don't even have a mixer board, where they hit sound effects, that kind of stuff. We're not that professional here. It's just a microphone and a squeaky chair. This chair is so squeaky, it's doing my head in.
Yeah.
Because I can hear it back in the editing. I'm like, oh, I'm squeaking on that chair like
just
something.
Squeaking away.
It's terrible. So I'm moving around in this chair like a psychopath. I'll tell you that now.
Yes.
Anyway,
I have no idea.
Reeling back, we're talking about the giveaway.
Oh, yes. Enter the giveaway if you haven't done so already. You have until November 10th. All you have to do is like the post, be following us, comment Texas Tea for me, and tag 3 friends. And I believe that is all. I think I had on there, let us know wherever you listen to us. People were saying Instagram. You can't listen to us on Instagram, but
they're following us on Instagram is what they mean.
Maybe, or
they're looking at us and they're just looking at the post.
Or
and
I thought maybe they're clicking on the Spotify thing because you can listen to us. You can click on Spotify.
So it's Spotify you're listening to us on.
Yeah, if you guys listen to us, we do post because where we post our podcasts is a program called Anchor, and they are affiliated with. They're part of Spotify.
Yeah. The Spotify, run by Spotify.
They distribute it
to Apple
to everywhere.
Apple Podcasts,
Stitcher. Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. But they're part of Spotify. So therefore, when we put a podcast out, it's easy for us to just link you right to Spotify if that's where you listen to us. Yeah. So, anyway, you can tell us where you listen to us. We would appreciate that. I guess it's not necessary.
It's just for our records to know where people are listening to us.
Yeah, we're just curious.
Yeah, I mean, we've got stats and stuff, and we know where a lot of you listen to us on. But, it's helpful for us to know, what you prefer to listen to us on. Yes. Yeah. Anyway.
But anyway, you have until November 10th, so go and get all kinds of Texas goodies. We went shopping and we bought things that we would normally.
We went shopping
except for maybe some of the sour pickle candy.
Yes, we had a couple of comments about, what is that sour pickle ball? That doesn't sound very appetizing because it's a candy.
You have to win it and taste it and tell us.
Me?
Yeah, it's from Alamo Candy.
I'm not entering this giveaway.
No, you cannot win it.
I got my hopes up then because I kind of want some of the stuff. I'm like, and we're on a sugar detox right now, so all this stuff is like
the Lamb's Candy chocolate bars. Really calling my name.
I tell you. It gets easier after the first couple of days, so,
But anywhere.
Anyway, places we want to go. Edinburgh. Yes. If anybody don't know where Edinburgh is, it's in Scotland. It's the capital of Scotland, actually.
Yes.
It's in the county of Lothian, and it was founded before the 7th century AD, so it's pretty old.
Yeah.
It's pretty old.
I mean, if you follow anybody on Instagram who travels, they've been to Edinburgh.
They've been to Edinburgh. They're there with their camera shots down Victoria Street and the Royal Mile and everything. Because Edinburgh, it's affectionately nicknamed Auld Reekie.
What does that mean?
Old Smoky. Okay. Auld Reekie. It's Scots for Old Smoky.
And why is that?
Well, if you look at anything on the old town of Edinburgh, it's all the buildings are black.
Very black.
Industrial Revolution,
Yeah.
And it's Old Smoky. It's all the smoke-covered buildings
they
and
had
stuff.
a lot of factories, I guess, in Edinburgh?
A lot of factories in, when the Industrial Revolution kicked off. And, a major draw, of course, is the Edinburgh Castle.
Yeah.
Which houses the Scottish crown jewels, which are obviously part of the Queen's crown jewels, the monarch's crown jewels.
Yeah.
And there's also the National War Museum of Scotland, because there's been a lot of war in Scotland.
Yeah.
That's why they built Hadrian's Wall, the Roman Wall, as they called it back then.
Yeah.
To keep the Scots out, And
those wild Scots.
Those wild Scots. Terrible. But they didn't. They did keep them out because they didn't want to come to England, see? Not many Scots actually want to go to England.
Yeah, what? You mean now, still?
Well, still, yeah. They just want to stay in Scotland, drinking iron brew and...
Okay.
Eating their fish suppers. Aye. They've got the jewels in there. Combined, actually, that's worth £5 billion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, estimated, anyway.
And these are...
Which is about $6.5 billion for anyone wondering.
Because, okay, you have the crown jewels in
the Tower of London.
In London.
And you've got some
crown jewels.
And
those are they belong to the crown.
They belong to the crown.
And the ones in Edinburgh do too?
Yeah. I mean, she's Queen of Britain.
Yeah.
And Scotland as well now. Yeah, it's I don't know how that would work, though, if Scotland became independent from the United Kingdom, if she would still be the sovereign.
Give me this.
She'd be like, give me those, and maybe Scotland would be like, no, you got to come and take them. You get your ass up here and you come and take them yourself. But yes, I mean, $6.5 billion. I mean, it's a wonder that, I'm sure there's been plots to steal them before and everything,
Yeah.
But I mean, how would you sell them?
I wonder how much the ones in London are worth.
I mean, no, that's combined.
It's
combined with them, yeah. It's not just the ones in Scotland are worth £5 billion, but, it's combined, yeah, because I couldn't really, because I think that there's a jewel in the scepter, because they've got the crown, the scepter, and everything like that. There's a jewel in the scepter that's worth £400 million on its own.
So are those actually the jewels that,
They wear when they're coronated and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've been set.
She doesn't have them like in her bedroom somewhere when she's not wearing them.
No. They take them, because it's like, people think like, oh, the Queen, she can go wherever she wants and wear whatever she wants. One day she's going to be wearing the crown and be like, hey,
But none of that stuff actually belongs to her.
It belongs to the crown, and the crown isn't her.
Yeah,
it's
the crown is the crown.
The crown is, you're just, it's like, you watch all these shows, it's like your duty is to the country and your kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
It's like the kingdom of,
Well, that's the whole purpose of the show, The Crown, isn't it? It's like
whoever's going to take
over. The crown is the crown. It has nothing to do with the person.
The individual people. Yeah, they're just living it. They're just the family that has been non-elected, I should say. It's just historically kind of like grandfathered in, as they like to say,
Yeah.
You've been grandfathered into that role. And, it's a double-edged sword. People think like, oh, yes, I'd love to be queen and princess and all that. But it's just like, nah.
Yeah.
I mean...
So it's like that castle in Edinburgh, it's not hers. But
it's not hers.
As long as she
can go there, yeah.
Her and she can bring her family there.
Yeah.
And use it.
I mean, she has an estate up in Scotland called Balmoral, which I think it's up in the Highlands, somewhere. I mean, I'm not exactly sure where.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to Edinburgh. That's what I'm talking about.
We're so easily sidetracked, you guys, but
sidetracked by the royal family. I don't know.
You know that about us by now.
Yes. The major parts of central Edinburgh are they're divided into the Old Town, the New Town, and the West End. And the West End, I think,
is the West End.
That's where they have the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Oh, I thought that was in Old Town.
Well, it's all over Edinburgh, really.
Or the Royal Mile area.
Yeah, I mean, it's all over Edinburgh, really. But the West End is where they have like all the, the West End.
It's like the West End of London.
It's kind of like shows and stuff. Yeah, I mean, but really, the Fringe is all over it's all over Edinburgh, really, because it's such a historic city.
Yeah.
The New Town. Other areas include Leith, which stands on the banks of the Firth of the Forth.
Say that again.
The Firth of the Forth.
The
Firth of the Forth.
What is that?
That's the estuary that comes out.
It sounds like you're not even saying...
Firth means estuary.
The Firth of the Forth. It sounds like you're supposed
the River
to be...
Forth.
You're trying to say first. On the first of the Forth. And
Firth of the Forth. When I was a kid, this fascinated me. Because of the Forth Bridge and everything. Because, I lived in Scotland as a kid. And I remember coming to driving... I wasn't driving, but my parents were driving. I was driving, yes. I was on the whiskey and the Bucky at the time, and Iron Brew and everything. And we drove to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And to go to through Fife, which is on the other side of the Firth of the Forth. I'm gonna keep saying that now. It's a drinking game. Which it's like an estuary into the North Sea,
Yeah.
and the River Forth comes, and several actually Scottish rivers drain out into that estuary.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just like this, Edinburgh's here, and then there's a big wide opening, and then Fife is on the other side. And they built several bridges, but the most famous is the Forth Bridge, which is a symbol of Scotland. Whenever you think of Scotland, you think of kilts, thistles, and the Forth Bridge. Because it looks kind of red.
I don't think of that.
Well, what do you think of then when you think of Scotland?
Kilts.
And that's it.
Kilts and bagpipes. You ask an American?
One of the symbols of Scotland is the Forth Bridge.
Plaid.
It's a railway bridge. Plaid. Tartan. It's not plaid. You don't call it plaid. But it's like this rust-colored bridge.
Yeah.
And it's very, very, very symbolic of Scotland. It's like one of the, when I see it, I'm like, oh, that's Scotland.
Yeah. I don't
to
know if I've ever seen this bridge. I mean, I haven't, obviously, in person, but
it's like it's a cantilever one. It's a railway bridge. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe you haven't seen it.
Is it the one? It's not the one from Harry Potter.
No, okay. That's a viaduct. That's not. That's just a viaduct through the hills.
Don't know.
That this is going across the river.
Hi, American here.
And it's one of the symbols of Scotland, really.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and you know,
And what does firth mean?
Estuary.
What does estuary mean?
You know, like a drainage of rivers out into the
Okay.
sea. You know, it's like well, ships obviously come in. You know, my dad remembers it. You know, from when he was on ships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I remember going across it on a train several times, and you know, there's the Forth Road Bridge. You know, you get a good view of it then, you know, because Leith is right there. You know, you can see it from Edinburgh.
The Firth of the Forth. Okay. And the Forth means the bridge? The Forth Bridge?
River. It's the river.
The river is called
the Forth.
The Forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
But several, like, rivers in Scotland drain into that river.
So it's a large river.
It's kind of a large river.
It's like Edinburgh's Thames.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Kind of, yeah. But
Yeah.
really, Edinburgh's on the Firth of Forth. It's not really on the river.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, that's the river, and then there's, like, a wider opening into the sea, you know?
You know, I don't...
You look at a map, anyway. This is probably boring you all, us having this conversation
just, like,
about that.
rambling onto this. I don't know if I knew any names of cities in Scotland. I knew about Scotland, obviously, but I don't know...
You didn't know Edinburgh?
I don't know if I did or not. I can't remember. Maybe
Glasgow gets most of the fame.
Maybe the first time I ever heard of Edinburgh was my first trip to the UK.
Oh, you're going to tell that story.
And this little old lady that was sitting next to me on the plane did not speak to me the entire thing, which is fine because I'm not like I don't speak to people either.
You were asleep.
And I was asleep. I was like hardcore asleep. I was probably snoring all over her. Like, I don't even know.
I've seen you hardcore asleep, so I know.
Yeah. But I was up against the window. She was sitting on the aisle. We were the only two in the row. And when I woke up and before we landed, she asked me where I was going. And
so where you going, dearie?
Yeah, and I said London, and then I was like, "Oh, what about you?" And she said she was going to Edinburgh.
Come away back to Edinburgh.
Yeah, and that was about it. And I was
just come over to see my grandson.
And I could tell that her accent was a bit different, you know, and yeah, I must have known because I feel like I knew that was Scotland.
Scotland's
I don't know.
Scotland's capital. Oh, come away back to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we met up, you talked about, oh yeah, there was this woman I was talking to. She was from Edinburgh.
Scottish lady. Yeah. Yeah, I must have
little
known,
Scottish lady that I was talking to.
Yeah. But I mean, we don't really know a lot about Scotland over here. Like I said, and I was not being the thing, you know, it's like most Americans know
haggis.
Bagpipes. Haggis, maybe. I don't even know if we really know about haggis.
Well, it's like a lot of people don't think of Scotland as part of the UK.
Yeah.
You know, they think Scotland's this other place.
Like the UK
somewhere.
is just England.
It's a lot of people think the UK is just England and that's it, you know.
Britain, UK, England,
and they think
it's
everything
all like synonymous.
and it's separated from each other, you know, like they think Scotland is like, you know, like the old joke on like Jimmy Kimmel or whatever, like they ask the average American, they say, oh, find Scotland on this map, and they point to like, I don't know, Greenland or, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you do realise it's part of the UK? And
Norway,
they're like, what's the
somewhere.
UK, you know?
Yeah.
Norway or whatever, you know, they don't realise that Scotland and England are on the same island, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, because a lot, like you said, what's UK? A lot of people, I think, we call it Britain. Great Britain.
Great Britain.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, there's a lot of people still, because, you know, not even in Britain you'd call it Great Britain anymore, you know, unless you were really, really, like, old.
But yeah, Edinburgh.
Edinburgh!
I have seen so many photos,
it's
so many
very
videos.
Instagrammable.
It is absolutely gorgeous. It's like all the buildings in the old town look like they're like brown, but they are like because of
They're
the black.
They're black, and they've got this gothic kind of architecture as well, which makes it like perfect for like people who are into that kind of thing.
But they're a bit like brown, aren't they? They're like
well,
brownstone. I don't know.
The sandstone.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean sandstone and the other stuff as well. You know, they're not all completely sandstone.
And then they're just like edges are all black, and it makes everything look old and like creepy. Like it would be the perfect, this month is October, so we're thinking about creepy things.
Yeah.
It would make it like, oh yes, this, you could imagine walking around and it's all foggy and everything, and it's just like, ooh, it's very eerie.
Well, the Royal Mile is good for that. The Royal Mile goes from the castle down to Holyrood Palace, which is the seat of the Scottish government. Mm-hmm. And it's cobbled, but the best thing is going off into like the little like wines and the winds, I think they call it, and the little side alleys.
Yeah.
And they're like spooky at night, because they're like old Edinburgh, in the old town and stuff like that. I mean, the new town isn't that new. They call it the new town because it's distinguished. Newer. It's newer than the old town. Yeah. And the old town was overcrowded. So in 1766, they put out a competition for an architect to design a new town.
Oh, yeah.
And some kid won it,
Some kid.
I mean, he probably was about 17 or something, or something like that. And he was like, okay, I'll design this new town. It's got to be... And it's right next to the old town, obviously, but it's distinguished.
I know. I've seen in people's videos.
And it looks new, it looks new.
It looks newer, yeah.
It's even though it was like 1700s, it was like started and completed.
It didn't, I mean, because the Industrial Revolution, that was like, in theory, it should be all black too, the new town, but it's not for some reason.
It's not, no. I mean, I don't know why there was so much smoke and stuff, like, didn't affect. Maybe they built it using stuff and they just keep repainting it.
Because things in Glasgow are quite blackened too, aren't they?
Yeah, some of it, yeah. I mean, that was another industrial town. I
seem to have some sort of cathedral.
Actually, the shipyards were the biggest industry in Glasgow. Yeah. So, which it's all long gone now, but in the like...
It would have been the smoke coming off of them, probably.
Yeah.
Because coal,
Coal-fired, yeah. Coal-fired everything, so it's like completely covered the city,
God, can you imagine people's lungs? People that lived in...
Well, that's why people never lived
cities.
past 45, in those days, because they were just breathing this stuff in all day. And then they were smoking on top of it.
Yeah.
They were smoking themselves on top of it and drinking hard and playing hard.
So do you have in your notes, anybody who's not familiar with Edinburgh, like, do you have any like films or anything that were set in or filmed in Edinburgh that people might be able to go, oh, that's where they're talking about? You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think what was filmed in Edinburgh. I know recently there was kind of a like a hubbub over that Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams movie for Netflix, that Eurovision film.
Oh, yeah.
That was filmed almost entirely in Edinburgh, but they never really said, this is Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. But everybody was like, oh, that's Edinburgh. That is definitely Edinburgh. Like, oh, yeah, they filmed all this in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And I think they film a lot of TV stuff, like Rebus. It's probably, British people know. It's like a lot of like Rebus. He's like a detective show, and
it's such a photogenic place to film in. You would think so. You would think that loads and loads of stuff. It's touristy though. Yeah, I guess so.
Hard to block off. But also, it's also touristy for another reason. Things weren't set there, or filmed there, but something was written there.
Yeah.
In cafes.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling wrote in...
it's said to be like one of her main inspirations.
The Spoon Cafe. Well, she lived there, and she still does. I think she lives out in the countryside now, obviously. Yeah. But, she when she moved there in like 93 with her kid, and she was like on benefits and stuff. Mm. And she was, she was writing for fun in cafes. She was losing jobs because she was writing this Harry Potter stuff. And, she was most notably in Spoon and the Elephant House.
Stuff.
Well, yeah, that's what this Harry Potter stuff, And, yeah. And so she was writing that, and, of course that exploded.
Yeah.
And everybody's coming to Edinburgh now because they think, oh, Hogwarts is based on Edinburgh Castle. And I think she said, I mean, somewhat, but no. You know, she's debunked a lot of, like, the theories of, like, what inspired, like, the Royal Mile was Diagon Alley, and
if you guys want to know places that she's debunked, I think we did a whole episode.
We did a whole episode about it, so you just go skip back there.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, the Elephant House capitalizes majorly on the connection.
Yeah. Because
they say it's the birthplace of Harry Potter, and she's like, well, no, technically the birthplace was on a train, you know?
Yeah.
Of Harry Potter, and I wrote most of the first book at Spoon, which was another cafe.
Yeah. And,
by the Goblet of Fire, she was mega famous, and she wanted to keep writing in cafes. Mm-hmm. But she says, I couldn't, because everybody knew who Harry Potter was, and everybody was coming in and going, what are you writing, Harry Potter? Oh, Harry, what are you writing? And she was like, yeah, I can't write in here anymore. Yeah. Can't get any bloody peace. Well, and the Balmoral Hotel, I think.
Is that in Edinburgh?
Oh, yes.
Might be in London.
No, it is. No, it's in Edinburgh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because that's where she finished it, yeah. Mm-hmm. The room 525 or whatever it was. Yeah. But there's other famous people who of Edinburgh. I mean, probably the most famous other than that. I mean, she's not from Edinburgh, J.K. Rowling. She just lived there. Yeah. She wasn't born there. But Sean Connery.
Oh, is he?
He's an Edinburgh boy.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
Big Tam. Born at 176 Fountain Bridge, which was demolished in the 60s. Yeah. He came back in like 2010 to unveil a plaque around the new area that's sprung up there. Yeah. And he's just like, obviously it's changed. It's obviously
was that your Sean Connery voice?
It's changed, It's changed. And it's obviously Sean Connery was like, it's probably Edinburgh's most famous son, Alexander Graham Bell.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
He invented the telephone. And Stuart Sutcliffe.
For Beatles fans.
Yeah. The Beatles fans out there, yeah. And another well-known resident was the Greyfriars Bobby.
Oh yeah, you'll have to tell
that story. I mean, it's like one of those urban legends, I think,
So they don't know if it's true or what?
Well, I mean, there's people
who made a movie about this.
They Disney made a movie about it.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And they've made several kind of things. It's kind of like it's the story is he was a small Skye Terrier and he reputedly kept vigil over his dead master's grave in Greyfriars churchyard. For 14 years in the 1860s and 1870s. Yeah. And, he was just this little dog. He used to go there and just stand in his graveyard. And just,
his owner died.
Yeah, and, there's several, dogs who went to the place of their master's death because they're, waiting for him to return. Or this is the last place he was. Yeah. And, the best-known version of the story is that Bobby belonged to John Gray, who worked for the Edinburgh City Police as a night watchman. When John Gray died, he was buried in Greyfriars Kirkyard, the kirkyard surrounding Greyfriars Kirk in the old town of Edinburgh. Bobby then became known locally, spending the rest of his life sitting on his master's grave. Aww. And then years later, because there's a statue of him, years later some lady was enchanted by the story and was like, oh, you should I want to make a sculpture and, commission a sculpture and have it put there. And so it stands there now today,
What if they buried him in there with his master?
I imagine that's part of the story. But there's obviously people going, is it true? Is it not? Or is it just somebody who saw that dog a lot and just thought, oh, he's sitting on that grave, so that must be his master's grave. It's like, it's one of these urban myths, legends that could or could not be true, Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the most Instagrammable place that I see all the time in Edinburgh.
Okay, go ahead.
Is Victoria Street.
Oh.
People walking up that, I think it's because the old town is on this, because the castle kind of sits over the new town.
Yeah.
And then, you've got these the slope that goes up.
They're
and
kind of colourful.
Colourful, the colourful
yeah.
eyes. It's all I ever see on Instagram.
To me, that's not my favorite part, though. I just like all the old little back alleys and corners, and then there's like things you go down these stairs, and there's like things over
things. There's things.
Yeah,
and
it's
there's
just
things
like
down there.
places
I go
around
down here, and I go down there.
Places around every corner, and it's just a little bit like
it's twisty, turny, nocturne alley type.
Yeah.
I mean, again, people like, oh, Edinburgh, it's totally the setting for old London of Harry Potter.
It's just like, I don't think that when we finally go there, I don't know that if there's anything specific in mind that I need to go see. I just want to like walk around and see everything.
The
like
castle and,
Yeah.
There's a zoo there.
But not even just the castle.
There's a botanical garden
I just
there.
want to like walk around the streets of the old town and see all the like dark, like just buildings, and go around corners and go downstairs and back in alleys, and just like I don't know, it just looks really cool, and I just want to see it. I don't care what the places are. I'm hoping that there's not like you go around a corner and there's the Boots, or you
yes,
go around
there's
the corner,
going to.
There's Asda, it's like.
I mean, there's going to be that kind of stuff, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I don't want to see that though.
Yes, you want to be like,
they
try to,
because
because it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Oh,
Edinburgh.
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Along with the Forth Bridge that you don't know anything about.
Never heard of this.
We're going to look up a picture and I'm going to show her in a minute.
Really quickly though, but because we're going to run out of time, you kept mentioning the Royal Mile. Do you have any idea why it's called the Royal Mile?
Because the Royal Mile, it's
very royal.
It's very royal. and it's a
mile.
It's not actually a mile. It's like what a Scots mile is called.
Oh, a Scots mile.
There's a Scots mile, yeah.
Oh my.
It was.
God.
I can't. It's which is slightly longer than or shorter maybe than an actual mile. Like imperial measured mile or whatever it is. It's like, it's because people have gone, oh, is it actually a mile long? Oh, no, it's slightly longer than a mile. And they're like, oh, no, that's what it used to be called, is the old Scots mile.
Yeah.
That's what they used to call it. And I mean, I'm guessing from the castle,
That's why it's royal.
They trotted down to the palace,
that makes it royal. They trotted. You should have seen him bouncing this
They were trotting down on the cobbles back then. The king would be there. King James, I'm sure it was,
King Uhtred.
King Uhtred, son of Uhtred.
Let us know if you guys have ever been to Edinburgh. I'm curious. It seems to me that everybody on our Instagram has been to Edinburgh. It's just like, why have I never been there?
Edinburgh.
Literally everyone's been there except for us. Let us know what your favorite spot in Edinburgh was. What was your favorite thing that you saw there if you have been there? Recommend to us some things that we need to see, places we need to go, because definitely we will be going there at some point. It's absolutely on the list. Thank you as always for listening. We really appreciate your support. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know any other places that you think we need to talk about in this series, because there's plenty of places that we know we want to go, but maybe you'll inspire us for other places we want to go.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your support. We'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.